now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. One of my viewers wanted me to talk about the new Superman costume that is going to be in James Gunn's new Superman movie that's coming out in 2025. And this new Superman costume basically is one I'm not feeling, and I'm not feeling this costume because it basically reminds me of the new 52. Now, back in 2011, DC Comics and Warner Brothers had the bright idea to basically cancel all of their DC comics and reboot the DC universe with this new 52 universe. And as part of that new 52 universe, they wanted to give us a new Superman wearing a new costume, and that new costume basically was one that alienated me and many comic fans because it basically was not the character we grew up with. Moreover, it just didn't fit the character at all, and the way that the character was written basically turned off a lot of people because this Superman was a lot more emotional and acted more like a guy from a female-headed household rather than the level-headed hero we had grown up with over 80 years. Now, that's what that whole costume reminded me of and took me back to those dark days in 2011 when the DC universe I grew up with basically was abruptly ended by Warner Brothers and then editor-in-chief Dan Didio to give us a new, fresher, hipper Superman, one that basically wound up really just making me very angry and made it where I never wanted to ever buy another DC product ever again. And this whole costume basically brings up all of those memories because it really reminds me of the new 52 and all of the bad memories I had regarding the end of the DC comics I grew up with. That's what this costume really reminds me of, and it also reminds me of a really desperate effort by Warner Brothers to try to capitalize on the popularity of the MCU. Now, Warner Brothers has been struggling for the last decade to play catch-up with Marvel Studios as related to the whole superhero movie genre, and they wound up bumbling and stumbling with the Snyderverse, which alienated a lot of comic fans with its whole dark and gritty take on superheroes, starting with Man of Steel, which basically gave us a darker, grittier Superman, something people like myself didn't want to see as related to Superman. No, with Superman, we wanted something similar to 1978 with the late Christopher Reeve, where we got a hopeful, optimistic Superman, someone who could inspire people to be their best, and that's not something that we got with the Man of Steel Superman, which was played by Henry Cavill. And with David Cornswith Superman, it seems like DC Comics continues to fumble the ball, continuing to give us the whole take of a darker, grittier look. And again, that's just not what comic fans like myself want in a Superman movie. And while the jury is out on what James Gunn will do as related to his take on Superman, I'm not really feeling like this version of Superman is super for me. Nah, I ain't really feeling this costume with the collared look because Superman's whole costume has been iconic for him not having no collar, and I'm not really feeling the Kingdom Come S symbol. No, not really feeling that at all. It doesn't really give me that inspiration and hope. I mean, yes, you got the colors, right? but the whole aesthetics of the look is not one I am impressed with. No, I'm not really seeing the Superman that's iconic here with James Gunn's Superman, and I don't really see anything to get excited about this latest attempt to reboot the DC cinema as related to building a DC cinematic universe. Not really seeing anything that shows me anything has changed over at Warner Brothers as related to them today. No, I'm seeing the same dysfunction that basically derailed Superman back in 1980 when Richard Donner was fired on Superman 2 in the middle of production because Warner Brothers executives stepped in and meddled in that film and then decided to hire Richard Lester to finish making Superman 2 the way they wanted. And then that's where the Superman franchise went into decline, and we started to see this 40-year pattern of Warner Brothers being its own worst enemy as related to the adaptation of DC Comics properties. And when I look at this whole image of Superman, it really shows me that nothing has really changed over at Warner Brothers as related to the whole Superman franchise and the DC cinema adaptation of DC superheroes. It really shows me that they go from one excess to the other. Either we get a whole lot of executive meddling that derails a franchise, or they let a creator like James Gunn go carte blanche and go crazy, similar to the way they would let Joe Schumacher go crazy. And instead of us getting a balanced adaptation that really feels like a comic book come to life, like many Marvel films, like the first Iron Man, Captain America, the first Avenger, Deadpool, and the 2002 Spider-Man, those films basically felt like comic books come to life, and they felt like the passion of the creators as related to their love for the characters came to life on screen, and a dedication to bringing the comic books to life and staying true to the source material. But with this whole Superman picture, it just looks uninspired. The design looks very uninspired. It really doesn't have anything dynamic. Yeah, you got the colors right, but the whole thing is the design of the costume, again, takes us to a dark era of comics back in 2011 when people were walking away from comics. This was the costume that reminds me of the New 52, where this was where I went from buying DC Universe Classics basically every wave to winding up walking away from that every DC products in general. And I haven't bought anything DC in about 7 years. I haven't bought anything DC in years outside of possibly, I bought a DC Essentials Nightfall Batman. That was about one of the last DC figures I picked up. And if it wasn't, and these days with McFarlane making DC, I haven't bought a single thing because I'm still disgusted about them rebooting to the New 52. And if this new direction is taking DC's superheroes in a direction similar to the New 52, then I still have no reason to even care about DC. That's why I haven't said much about the entire DC characters online at this point as related to these movies, because at this point I see no reason to care. I charged DC to the game after going through a mourning process, and after going through that mourning process with DC basically turning its back on fans like me, I basically have become completely indifferent to DC at this point, where, yeah, they're making DC products, but at this point, I don't care about DC anymore. And again, when I look at this image of Henry Cornswit, or in the Superman costume, I don't really see a reason. Well, I call him Henry. That's not his name. His name is David Cornswit. But I really don't care about DC at this point. Nothing here that really gets me excited about DC. No, I just see more of the same. And for me, this isn't Superman. It's just SuperMeh. Now, if you want to pick up my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, you can find that comic on Lulu.com for the same price that people paid for the paper copy on the 2022 Kickstarter. And if you want to pick up my first digital comic, Esteem No Good Deed, you can find that comic on Kindle right now for 99 cents. And you can pick up that comic on Amazon.com on Kindle for 99 cents. And you can also pick up many of the books in the SJS Direct universe, like those in the ISIS series, the Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, and my vampire novel, Eternal Night. You can find all those books in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com, and you can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to help me be able to make the next full SJS Direct comic, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, ISIS, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed, all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.